So this Sunday we are dealing with forgiveness. That's the teaching of Jesus. And in many cases, we have a hard time to deal with it. That's why if I may ask you, what is the hardest experience in your life? I believe that you would give me a lot of answers and also instances. But think about it seriously. When I say the hardest experience, what I mean is an experience that takes your whole being, an experience that defines you as a person with conscience and understanding. That's because what we believe in Christ Jesus. So it takes your whole energy, it sacrifices your feeling, even it fills your emotion and thoughts with pain that probably stay forever. So if you can name it, I do believe that many experiences that you have, I'm sure that one of them is experience to forgive or to be forgiven, because it is very deep when we are talking about forgiveness or to be forgiven. And why I'm sure about this, it is because a part of our humanity and almost everyone has experienced it. Otherwise, it will be part of our experience in the future. And I hope it will not happen, but whether we like it or not, not sometimes, probably it will happen in the future with us. So I personally, I've heard emotions unable to forgive many times in the sacrament of reconciliations. Even I myself, I experience also the hardest part, how to forgive someone that I love. So to forgive and to be forgiven are two experiences of our human life, and it involves our feelings and also emotions. That's why when I say that the hardest experience of our life probably is experience to forgive or forgiveness, because it takes the energy and everything that we have. So think about it. When you offend someone, for instance, if your word or my words or my actions cause them in pains, I lose all negotiating power to make them to forgive me. So the power of forgiveness actually rests within that person. If that person says they need 6 months to get over it, especially for what I have done, I have no right to tell them to say only 2 or 3 months, because it takes the whole being of that person to forgive. So I personally, I would share with you my experience about the forgiveness. I grew up with a small family and very modest family, and I grew up with my grandmother and also my mom. Um, there was a moment when I saw my dad is always a pretty tough guy. My dad was not really abusive, but he was a really tough guy. And in many cases, when I encounter him, and had a lot of frictions, and then I carried that frictions until for a long time. And I personally, I was able to forgive my father when just 2 weeks before my ordinations. That was 10 years ago, and I am right now is 40. So going back that moment, I asked myself, now, just a couple of weeks, I will be ordained as a priest. And I myself, in my retreat before the ordinations, the spiritual director asked me, now tell me, what is the hardest part in your life? So until today, I can live without anything else, but I cannot live with the pain and unable to forgive my father. So it took me couple of hours and couple of weeks of the process, and eventually I came to conclusion to make a decision to forgive. And it was grateful, and always it was a blessing also, how to relieve the pain and also the bitterness that I have in my life. Well, I don't like it, but I have to embrace the bitterness, the pain, the emotion that caused me. And eventually I called my father before the ordinations. I told him that I ask your blessing to be ordained as a priest. I cannot preach the gospel of love if I have no love to you. I cannot forgive you. I cannot preach a forgiveness if I cannot forgive you. So It went well, and my father, we had a good conversation, and eventually it was not only forgiveness, but also reconciliations. And that's the beauty of sacrament of reconciliations. When we are talking about to forgive or forgiveness, it doesn't mean that we reconcile in many things. But the beauty of forgiveness, or to be forgiven, there is always reconciliations. So in order to comprehend spiritually what it means to forgive or to be forgiven, today's gospel gives us a strong reflection on this matter. And we notice also in the gospel how Jesus addressed his disciples, the audience, to understand his teaching. Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you. If someone strikes you on the cheek, offer your other cheek to them as well. And if a person takes your cloak, give him your tunic also. So what a beautiful words that Jesus told us. Because it is not only a teaching, but also when Jesus addressed this point, he addressed it with the whole of his heart. Because there is no anything in returns. That's why Jesus tells, give it everything. Do not even think about it. So, dear friends, if we pay attention carefully to what Jesus said to his disciples, his words actually are more difficult to hear than we do it or we put into practice. They may challenge us at the deepest level of our being, and most likely each one of us has been wounded, betrayed, or rejected at the different times in our lives. And it is undeniable each one of us has gone through the difficult time and friction with others, as I shared with you how I experienced my frictions with my father. But eventually I was able to forgive, but also reconcile with him. And that's why if we had an experience of forgiveness or difficult to forgive, if this person was a friend, just like my father, this wounding typically is amplified since we trusted this individual. However, each one of us also has a wounded or betrayed individuals in our lives. It is part of our human conditions. No one is perfect in this life, but we want to learn to be a perfect. So when Jesus instructs us to love our enemies, he does not mean that this person should become one of our friends. He understands that forgiving is first a decision. However, it's also a process. It is a decision, we make a decisions, but also we understand to forgive needs time, and it is a process. And the path to forgiveness may take a long time. It takes years, months, we do not know. It depends on the emotion of that person. But however, we have to choose to take the first step, to make a decision that we need to forgive. And no one can force us to take this step. We are only ones who can make these decisions. And in reality, it takes a long time before we are ready and willing to begin the process of forgiveness. Dear friends, to forgive means that we humble ourselves, willing to accept and embrace the pains and the bitterness that others cause in ourselves. So this is the key in forgiveness, because with our conscience, we realize that not everything that we can fix, even what has broken. But what cannot be fixed, it should be named properly. So it is very important. Not everything we can fix in this world. But in terms of relationship, if we cannot fix it, we have to name it, so that it has meaning in our lives. Otherwise, it will linger in our mind, in our hearts, and we live with the bitterness and hate, and we just stuck with it. So that's why we experience a heart of stone and unable to forgive when we are too angry, too selfish, or too frozen by the pain others have caused us. We know that a heart of flesh, while it may be vulnerable, it is compassionate. A heart of flesh sees that while we are feeling pain, the other person may also be hurting for the pain that caused us. We can get so caught up in ourselves that we do not even notice another is struggling from the offense. And it is true that people need to be held accountable for our actions, but these people also need patience for us. So practicing patience with others, holding on to hope, visions for our relationship with them. And it is a true act of compassion. For this reason, we need to invite the Lord into the journey and ask for the courage to take us for be patient with another and understanding that is needed to see they are also walking through the pain and the needs forgiveness. So today, Jesus does not ask for miracles, nor does he want to play with forgiveness. He continually invites us not only to free the individual who wounded us, but also to free ourselves from the pain, anger, and also hurt that binds us. Jesus is patient, yet he is persistent. So he continually invites us and calls us to forgive. And perhaps today we can take one small step in these directions. We try to make a decision even though it takes time, even though it takes a process for us to understand the meaning of forgiveness itself. I do understand it is not really easy, but the gospel tells us, because it is what Jesus said to us, and we do believe that the beauty of forgiveness itself is freedom. So when we forgive, there is a freedom because we are no longer shackled our own anger. It moves us from our selfish illusions to a beautiful reality. It is a hard work, but letting go of the pains that we can change the past, we can change others, or even that we are the one who can change ourselves, opens room for God to help us to grow spiritually and emotionally without retain our resentment we feel. So each time we forgive, it creates the way for the next time we need to forgive. And practicing the courage and patience, letting the Lord into the process of forgiveness become like exercising a muscle. So today we learn how the beautiful of love, especially in the power of forgiveness. The power of forgiveness is not only in us, but also through our prayer. It is a spiritual exercise that we need to put into practice in our life. May the Lord help us every time we try to forgive. It is what that God has want us to do in our life.